And the mic is yours.
Okay. Yeah, so my healing journey started, well, it's been ongoing for the last 25 years of my life. And really, if you're honest, when you're healing from trauma, you are instinctually trying to heal yourself when those that you rely on to be there for you are not, so you learn to self-soothe and take care. But consciously, I would say about 25 years ago, a childhood friend of mine and myself started a spiritual healing journey where we were kind of looking at what we didn't want in our life versus what we did. And we relied on some things we found on the internet and, stuff like looking to reframe and respond rather than to react, because we felt like we were too reactionary. And that's kind of where it started. And then in just trying to work on our marriages, because we both had problems in our marriages that we couldn't seem to find solutions around, couldn't get to a meeting space with our spouses at the time, and couldn't get to that healing. And it was deeply frustrating. We would talk about that. And so we've kind of just always been paralleling each other in our healing. And then about 4 years ago or so, I was dealing with someone who was a narcissist and didn't know it at the time. They really took advantage of the fact that I was divorced and hurting over the loss of my marriage and, had been in lack of so many things that I had needed for so many years, and so they were able to see those weaknesses and prey upon them and get right in there. And then it was difficult to get rid of them. And once I did, it just, the blinders fell off and I was able to see that, wow, this was not right for me. It's why I felt the way that I did. It's why I was hurting the way that I was. And I felt like I had been through something, huge. Like you feel if you're in a car accident or something else, like it was physical and mental and spiritual. And, you just felt it globally. And I needed healing from that. And so I was reaching out on social media to try to find people who had been through similar things. And I found a Facebook page that I joined of survivors. And then that's how I met Janaé. And she had defeating childhood trauma. And we became friends through that. And we're working on healing. And then last year, we both experienced some deep personal loss. And so together we kind of worked through that grief. We were each other's grief buddies, and we did IFS, which she introduced me to, and I thought that was wonderful because it really gave a voice to my trauma and allowed me to see it in its forms throughout my life and how it affected me. And so that was great. And then it ended up ending with Psych K, and Psych K is the most recent therapy that I was involved with. And a friend of mine who's a hypnotherapist, I had been talking to him and I said, Ray, I really just want to forget some of these things that I've been through in my life. And, can you hypnotize me so I can forget them? And he said, no, I can't make those go away. He said, but what I can do is I can help you deal with them in such a way where you don't have to relive the trauma, but you can take the experience or experiences and change how they affect you. And I said, tell me more. And so we talked about it, and he said that you can, you go into your subconscious, which is where all your trauma lies, and go into these memories or experiences and go in and just kind of alter how much of a hold they have on you. So like in a case of a situation with my mother, there was an event that was really painful for me, and I couldn't think about it without crying, and I didn't want to cry about it anymore. And so he was able to go in and just lead me in such a way that I pictured a really good experience with my mother that I had, a childhood memory, and then I pictured another one. And through the session, that was pretty much it. And then I don't cry over it anymore. It doesn't bother me like it did. And I know that it happened, and it was an awful thing, but it doesn't make me upset. And so that was really powerful to me. But the most powerful part of it was that just through that session and another one I had after, it not only affected this specific situation that I went to go get help with, but it just changed lots of things about how I walk in life. It changed my confidence level and gave me, higher vibration as far as how I walk in life. It made it so that I felt more capable and successful, and so I saw that manifest in my real life with a promotion and then more money. And then I was able to do my job more effectively even. And the way that I didn't have anxiety anymore, which I used to have anxiety every day, and I don't have it every day now. And then, moving across country, which I never would have done before, facing your fears or, hey, I'm not happy with my life, but I don't know what to do. And, you just kind of get stagnant and stuck and like, well, I'm just going to sit here and not know what to do and be unhappy because I don't know what to do. And I actually was able to take a chance and think things through and go, you know what, my path is somewhere else, and then make that leap, which was a tremendous leap. So it's just really kind of changed how I look at life in general. And I really, really am grateful for the experience, so much so that I had my children also have some sessions, and it's been wonderful for them as well. So spiritually speaking, I think that my journey has just been tenfold this year, just in the last few months. I've always been a spiritually based person. I've always practiced my spirituality. I've always loved my God, but it's so much more in my everyday than it was before. Before, when I was in my trauma and in my stress and overwhelmed and on survival mode every single minute of every single day, I would remember, I hadn't visited with God. I don't remember the last time I visited with God. And I'd say, I need to do better. And I'd feel guilty. And I'd make some, half attempt to connect as I was getting ready to run out the door for work. And it wouldn't feel authentic, and it wouldn't feel like a true connection. And I was missing that. And so through going to rooms of mutual friends of ours and who are doing healing, and your room and Janaé's and other friends, just being able to practice that every day with like-minded people who are also trying to heal, also trying to grow, also, just pouring into others and pouring into themselves and self-care and all of that. It's such a large part of every day. It's the first part of every day. I can't do without it, and it's showing, because I went back to Atlanta to see some friends, and they said, something is different. And I said, I lost a few pounds since I moved. And they're like, oh, no, something else is different about you. And I'm like, well, my life is totally different, all the way through. And to be able to feel that and know it so wholly, to bone, is so satisfying. It makes me feel so good. But I try to make sure that I have time with God every day. And there have been times in my life where I wondered where God was. Fortunately, not too many. I understand from my personal walk that I'm not being let down by God because something doesn't happen the way I need it to, or I have a tremendous loss of some kind or whatever. I know that there are people who experience that. For whatever reason, I've not had that. I think it's just how I think of God. And so, but there have been times where I've definitely been distant, and I can't say that that's the case now. I'm so grateful.
I'm just proud of your growth. I just love you. I'm gonna let Janaé, because I know she probably wants to say some things, and then I'll go because I wrote some things down because I'm my ADHD, but I'm gonna go after her. I'm gonna just turn this fan off and I'm gonna turn the mic around.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were talking about connecting on, in the different rooms with like-minded people, yeah, that really resonated. And that's a game changer, in my opinion, when we heal. Finding your tribe.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Okay. Well, just connecting, finding like-minded people, finding your tribe. Like, wow, these people get it. They've been through it too. Mm-hmm. It's sort of thing, because before I found my tribe, I felt isolated and alone.
That's what I wanted to ask you guys for, like, the audience. What is IFS? How do you start that? What does that look like?
Okay, this is how I introduced IFS on my site, that there tends to be a golden rule when healing trauma. The weirder the therapy, the more effective it is. That is the pattern. And so when I tell you that IFS is so weird, it is downright woo, I'm also telling you how highly effective it is. Mm-hmm. You're basically treating yourself like you have DID, even though you don't. You separate yourself from different parts of you, different triggers. Instead of saying, I'm angry, a part of me is angry. And so you get to know the part. Like in a therapy office, in IFS, mm-hmm. you'll talk about an event of the week, like something that triggered, and it's known as the trailhead. And so you go into self. You've got to do the meditation exercise to go into self. And self is, pure, compassionate to all parts, understand they all have a reason for doing what they're doing. And I came up with the acronym TERRA. Remember that? We practiced that with all our parts. Trust, assurance, throwing a blank. It's on my site. Oh yeah, respect. And yeah, so we give all the parts space, no matter how irrational they may seem. So you start with like, what was the trigger of the week, and you start going back to, because you've got protector parts. Either managers, they're kind of like our inner critic. Mm-hmm. They're running the show. They're the adults who are, okay, we've got to manage whatever. And then there's the firefighters. They're like our teenagers, mm-hmm. rebellious teenagers. Yeah, you trigger a firefighter, they're going to come raining on you like a mama bear on crack. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you start getting to know it. You start separating from it to explore it. And then you'll encounter protected parts. You can't get to the exile, which is the traumatic memory. Those are like the children parts, mm-hmm. and some young adult parts too can be traumatized. And the protectors are guarding the exile. So you start getting to know the protectors, earn their trust and respect and assurance, and you're gathering information like a dialogue. Basically, and you create a bio sheet, what do they look like, what do they say, and all this. And you're going to have parts that are known as skeptics or judge or impatient, like, okay, they're, can you hurry up and start getting to the point? And you got to ask the impatient part when you're feeling that way. Impatient part, can you step aside while I get to know this part? Yeah, so it's a deep dive. But once they gain your trust, they'll let you have access to the exile. And you want to create a container in some way, because the emotions are overwhelming from the exile.
What I really liked about it was that when Janaé did it with me, I was able to name, you name your trauma, right? Mm-hmm. And it gave it validity. It was like, where I had never been validated before, suddenly it has a name, it has a time and date in my life. That happened. I feel this way about it, and I'm gonna give it the credit it deserves. And then I'm gonna give that time in my life, or that representation of me at that time. I'm gonna give it the love for her, because it was me. Her the love that she deserved, and acknowledge that. And so, for me, there was childhood representations. There was the little girl, there was the teenager me, there was the adult me, and at different stages in my life. And we even named them, like we called my teenager brat. Yeah, and I had another another one that was named Lilith, and from an adult experience and stuff. And so, it gave it realness, and it seemed like, okay, I'm acknowledging this in a powerful way, and you work through it. And instead of feeling like I was reliving all this trauma or whatever, it just felt validating. And so I was able to take that weight off my shoulders. It was like, okay, I've been seen now. I've been seen, and it's okay. And look at me now. And that was empowering.
Wow. You ladies are awesome.
Yeah, I met my overactive light response / ADHD, and a 9-year-old little boy, and I named him Livewire.
Livewire?
I do not know. Probably because I have a lot of masculine energy. I've got a lot of male parts in me, and I'm like, okay, what's up with this?
That's interesting. So IFS is like just, it's like sorting your trauma and giving it a place and validating your trauma.
Yeah, you start with like present.
Yeah.
Instead of like starting backward in the beginning, you start with, okay, the trigger of the week. And then, okay, a part of me did this. Let's get to know this part and why it did what it did. And then you start working backwards to the past.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. I love that. And it's crazy that you can do it yourself. It's like self-help. It's not anything that you need to go and like pay for. So I love that resource. I love that resource. I love also the resources that you said, Amanda, of joining a Facebook group. I tell that to everyone. Like, I'm a caregiver. So I tell people, like, there's caregiver groups, there's trauma healing groups, there's so many groups and communities that you can go and feel seen and heard and validated.
Yeah.
I love that. And then I'm just so proud of you. I had to write this down. I'm so proud of you for taking that leap of faith and moving and trusting that path. And you're just living in that. And you seem different every time we speak, actually. You seem more like you're just becoming your higher self. And I love your journey. So I'm definitely locked in for your whole experience.
Thank you. That means so much to me, really. And I really love what you've been doing with the Healing Homegirls in our group. The Eric, remind me the last name, I forgot.
Eric Erickson.
Yes. That has been tremendous. And I'd never heard of that before. And I just found it so helpful because, again, it's that process of giving validity to what happened because there's no one but you who experienced it. No one else can give it that validity, but you're looking at it a different way instead of internally in that suffering. You're putting it out there and looking at more objectively and with other people who can relate and looking at their experiences. And it gives it that acknowledgement that says, okay, I can let this go now.
Yeah.
And I have needed that for so long and love it so much. I'm so excited when we resume after your break. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. I actually had a different experience with it this round. I've done it several times because it's a good chart to kind of go back because it, if you're healing the past, it usually will bring up stuff in the present. And this time around when we got to the early adulthood for the intimacy, I was telling Janaé about this. Like, I didn't even know there was wounds that needed to be healed in my first relationship with my firstborn son's father. I won't say the name, but I didn't even realize that because I thought if I put light to it or attention to it, then that's me. Then I would have the judgment from others that, oh, I still have feelings for this man. It's like, no, like he's married, I'm married. That's not that. But I felt that others would have that judgment. And so when we did the chart, I'm like, no, there was a lot of trauma, a lot of traumatic experience there that I don't want to be silent in just because we're great co-parents, So yeah, I started speaking about that. I did a whole video, recorded myself and released it and cried it out and hugged the 20-year-old Jasmine that just was operating in low self-worth, and I told her she's worthy, I'm worthy, and able to pour back into yourself once you go through that chart. So I love it. So I can't wait to resume that as well. And okay, let me see if this is still recording. Okay, we're good. Okay, and so we're gonna pass the mic to Janaé. We did speak about this topic last week, so I'm just gonna give you the mic because and share your knowledge and your experience, your spiritual experience, your views, and experience when you wrestled or felt upset with God. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll help. It'll help someone else. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Okay. Well, my mother especially, she would get these spiritual mania moments that were really weird. She would brag about her relationship with God. She knew scriptures, and yet she would always beat me. Her version of going to heaven or hell all hinged on whether or not you had premarital sex. So, according to my mother, if you've had premarital sex, you're all going to hell. And on the sorry, Jasmine. On the flip side, you can do all these horrible things as long as you didn't have premarital sex. You got a one-way ticket straight to heaven. But so I was growing up in this horrible logic and this horribly abusive rageaholic, mother. She had borderline personality disorder, and she would, from age 12 and up, she started saying something so horrible to me. Well, you do know if you died tomorrow, you'd go to hell. And I was like, what horrible things have I done? But, hey, if that's your take on my soul, then we'll go with it. I was deeply spiritual as a child. I mean, I would pray to God all the time, and especially before bed, because I nightmared a lot in my childhood. And so, my primary concern was, please don't let me have a nightmare tonight. Please don't let me have a nightmare tonight. I would pray for deliverance, for the abuse to end. Pray for, save me, somebody. This is horrible what I'm living in. And I was taking myself to church when I got my first car. I was a teenager. And, I was taking myself to church. And, while my parents lapsed out of church, I was taking me on Sundays and Wednesdays. And it got to the point somewhere along the line, I started questioning, God's not helping me. He's not doing anything. My mother keeps getting away with child abuse and domestic violence on my father. And she's always bragging about this great relationship with God. And here I am trying my best to be, good and have my relationship with them. I wanted him to save me and my brother. And it never happened. And let's see, when I was 20, I think the last straw, because I had already moved out, I got involved in Christian Student Center. And I was talking to a youth pastor, the youth minister in training. He was still going to school to become it. I laid out my whole childhood story, and man, I know this guy would be mortified if he knew I took his words the way that I did. But honestly, when you're raised by a cluster B personality disorder, when you don't, the last thing you need to hear is what he said to me. Well, everything you've been through has led you straight to God. You had to go through that to have a good relationship with him. And I'm like, oh, this is what cluster Bs do. They put you through so much, all so that you can be closer to them. And it set so sour in my stomach, because here I was growing up, praying and wanting to have this closer relationship with God, and only to be told that at age 20, oh, yeah, he put you all through all this because apparently I wasn't close enough with him. And, I had a couple setbacks out in the adult world early on. And I just kind of reached that point where, you know what? You don't like me. You've made it perfectly clear, crystal clear. You don't want a relationship with me. I don't know what I did to you to make you feel this way. This was my conversation with God. I don't know what I did to make you feel this way. But hey, message received. You don't like me? Guess what? I don't like you. I don't need you. I ain't talking to you no more. I'm going to go out and live my own life. And you're probably not even real anyway, because you're going to let a child abuser get away with what she was doing and not help me. And so I went forth in life. I couldn't ever bring myself to be an atheist, but I could entertain agnosticism. That's what I would tell people for years, because agnostics, I jokingly say, we have the luxury of believing in everything and nothing at the exact same time. It was, don't accept any belief system, but, be open to the possibility that it exists. And I got into history because I've got a severe mental processing addiction. There's always like some interest at the moment. After my first therapist, Dr. Quack from 90s quackery era, who was also a narcissist, so I got the double whammy. No tools, no nothing as far as healing. It's all toxic positivity. Let it go. Stop holding on to that pain. Oh, gee. Okay. So I felt like when I left therapy with Dr. Quack, I was 27. I felt like by that point, religion had let me down. I felt like psychology had let me down, and I wanted answers. So I dived headfirst into astrology. Oh, okay. Astrology is going to help me get to know myself and all these different signs, my birth chart and everything else. I can start making sense of, why did this happen to me? What is my purpose? And all of these other questions. Years later, I didn't get into history, really, unless you count the rabbit hole I fell into when Titanic, the 1997 movie, came out. Oh, I fell down a rabbit hole on Titanic. But I didn't really get into history until about 2012, 2014. And I wanted to understand, how did we as human beings get here? So being thorough, I started from, primitive time 101. And I was like, yeah, y'all boring. I don't like y'all. Y'all uncivilized. So I went to the Roman Empire and started working my way forward. And I got to 18th century, which I absolutely fell in love with, because people started waking up for the first time and asking the right questions. That was when abolitionism was born. People questioning, hey, what's up with slavery? But they were questions. Why do we have to have monarchs? Why this and that? And through that, I started getting to know the people who made history happen. And that became my first taste of a higher power, spiritual nourishment, true spiritual nourishment. And the guy I identified with the most, purely because he was raised by a borderline too. I couldn't believe it. George Washington. I said, no way, no way. This guy, I read 6 biographies on him. I studied Frederick Douglass because I identified with his deep thinking and his endurance and, how he handled adversity so well and how he championed for others. It was my spiritual nourishment. Wait, this one gave birth to my history comics. Back when, I had myself a little shame spiral. And George Washington comes up. I'm having a conversation with him. It was all because I felt like I stacked up pathetically short. I was feeling like a failure. And I said, okay, if George Washington could pull a Lazarus, what kind of pep talk would he give me? Because I know this man's entire life. And I ended up reparenting myself through this little exercise, and it became my first history comic on my site. And Frederick Douglass was the next one. Gave me wisdom. But I was getting nourishment. Like whenever I had a problem, I could go somewhere in my mind especially between George Washington and Frederick Douglass, my 2 favorite, something in their life similar to the struggle I was going through and what they did. And it would help me. It empowered me. And I hit a spiritual crossroads back in March. Been agnostic my whole life. I'm doing my thing. God hasn't had anything to do with it because, he rejected me and all this. I always get my husband a Blizzard at Dairy Queen because it's on the way home every Thursday night when I leave the dojo. He texted me on a Tuesday and asked if I could get him a Blizzard. I was like, okay, my man wants a Blizzard. He's super supportive of me and what I'm doing here. I'm going to get this man a Blizzard. I pull up to Dairy Queen. I hear in the distance. I'm like, wow, that's weird. That sounds like a wreck, except I didn't hear any screeching tires. Get the Blizzard. Go down the street to where I'm supposed to turn. Right there in the intersection, there was a wreck. Wow. And it didn't really hit me all the way until I got home. I looked down at my console and the Blizzard had melted somewhat on the console part. And so I felt like cursing it. And all of a sudden it was like a thought that wasn't fully my own. Gave me the image of the wreck that I saw as a reminder that the mess would have been a whole lot worse if not for the Blizzard. And it made me start reviewing my life and remembering a time when I was 17. I had gotten fed up with my mother hitting me and the things she was doing to my brother too. And so I got fed up. I stood toe-to-toe against my mother in the hallway that morning. And I said, you'll never hit me again. Fist clenched to the sides in fear of my very life because she always threatened death to anyone who challenged her. And here I was doing that. And she's acting demonic, literally demonic. Even her voice dropped several octaves. It was terrifying. And I remember going, oh God, please don't let it be me who dies in this hallway today, because I'm thinking this is going to be a fight to the death. And I'm planning, what am I going to tell the police? She has to hit me first, because at the time they were raising awareness on bratty, out of control teenagers. She has to hit first, so I can tell the police whatever happened next was self-defense. And she went from trying to intimidate me, and never, like, she was throwing punches at me, but they never connected. Like, she had to touch me so that it would be on. Next thing I know, she turned around, walked back to her bedroom, and never touched me again. And just like in the story of Frederick Douglass, when he took down that slave breaker, Edward Covey, my mother did exactly the same thing. She kept talking the talk, but she ceased walking it. And that's where my mind went. God was there for me that day. What if he was? Because I think of Ashley Martinson, who's serving a 23-year sentence. Exactly the same age that I was. 17, stood up to her abusers, got fed up. And unfortunately, her abuser accepted the challenge, and it was tragic. I got to go to school that day. I got to live life as a free person. All because my abuser walked away and never touched me again. And so I can, it's a lot of cognitive dissonance on a spiritual level. I'm kind of confused on how to let him into my heart, but it's given me a new perspective ever since that night of, oh, and it's like DMX's song, The Combo. Why you choose the hood for me? I'm over here. Why you choose abuse for me? That resonated with me. And realizing, well, I had to go through these challenges to handle life. Listening to DMX's song on repeat, because I'm like, dude, you get it. You're speaking to my soul here, because I got questions. I'm living in my purpose now. From everything that I survived, I'm here to help others. I'm here to tell people, hey, you don't have to carry that pain of the past for the rest of your life. You're not holding on to it. Don't let toxic positivity people accuse you of that. What I'm saying is, you can heal. You can get clarity. You can live the life you freaking deserve instead of the one you're settling for. And had I not gone through all of that, I wouldn't be here today championing as hard as I am. So, yeah, there's my story of spiritual abuse, agnosticism, and coming back, going, wow, really? I thought you didn't like me all these years, dude. For real. I did.
Wow, I love that. I love, especially when you bring up DMX and him being your favorite rapper, and like how you had to listen to him through that journey. It's so funny because I see DMX and how rowdy he would get and just his rage, and then knowing his history with his mother, and just and how you connected to all these figures, George Washington and Frederick Douglass. Like I really, that's when you told me that when I met you, I was like, in my head, I didn't call you this, like, but this girl is gonna be my homie. Because I'm like, she gets it. She really gets it. But I love that you said that you got wisdom from Frederick Douglass, and that you got I wrote it down. Where is it? You got wisdom from Frederick Douglass, and you got. I guess I didn't write it down.
Reparenting.
Reparenting.
Yes.
Reparenting. Okay, I did. You got reparenting from George Washington. That I love that. I love that because it's like people heal it shows that people can heal in different ways. Whatever they're into, it never gets too weird or too abnormal or too out of the box. It's creative. That's why I was telling you, like, you're a creator, you're creative, because that's a creative way to heal. Like, that is creative through music, through history. Like, you have learned to self heal, and it's not that you're fully healed, because healing is I always say lifelong. But I just love that. And then your journey through your therapist, the quack, through toxic positivity. Like, you did go through all this stuff, not to see God, but for your own inner wisdom to go and help others, for the God within. That's what I keep seeing with all of us in the group. It's the God within that's just representing the creator wants to create within you. And I love that. You went to astrology, you went through all these different avenues, and God still represented himself to show you that vision that day with the Dairy Queen, with that blizzard, to give you that almost prophecy of, like, I've always been here, and it could have been worse, but I will never give you more than you can handle. And this, you've handled it so well. I mean, not during the times, obviously, because we had to experience that, but it's really like you are now, like, healing. You have a whole community out there that's, like, looking to you for support. And I just adore both of you. My favorite thing you said: you can heal, you can get clarity. That's for everyone. I wrote that down with a bunch of circles. But yeah, that's all. I just wanted to pour into you because you're phenomenal, and the way you heal, the way you create, what you create, the barriers that you're breaking, and I love it. I love you. So I'm gonna go on mute if you wanna.
I would love to pour into you for a moment. And we've talked about this, just as friends in the past, just how that journey is hard. And there's so many people out there in the world who feel like God doesn't love them. And I think all of us at one time or another have wondered, you say you're there for me. Are you really there for me? And I think one of the problems is that organized religion, unfortunately, sometimes teaches that, God is going to save you and all you have to do is pray. Mm-hmm. And I don't know personally for myself if I believe that is really how God expresses his love for us. And, I think all journeys, all paths lead us to God, however we see God. And, I think for all of us, what I realized when we're in the rooms together, my interpretation is that if we had not lived the lives that we've lived and had those experiences, I'm not sure that we would seek out to be the highest vibration of ourselves. I'm not sure that we would be concerned with mindfulness or emotional intellect, or making sure that, trauma doesn't continue to be generationally passed down, And so I think, in a way, for me personally, I look at those experiences in life as training, however horrible. And because if I didn't have the experience, I wouldn't be able to go out and do what I do when I'm with others, and so, and it's so obvious to me when I meet someone who is not concerned with those things, or who does not have that inner reflection, and care about that, or care about the, elevation of other people and their spirituality. From an outside view, it's pretty obvious, they're living in a lot of chaos. They tend to wonder, okay, well, this always happens to me and it never changes. And why is that? And, it doesn't go any further than that. And there's no growth. And so I'm grateful that you didn't give up on your spirituality. And You know, you're a beautiful, amazing person, and everything that you feed into other people, all that tremendous knowledge that you have. I don't know if people realize how much information you have accumulated in a user friendly way for people to understand their trauma and give it a voice and start their healing and move forward and use it with purpose. You know, I don't know anyone else like you, and I don't know any other practitioner or writer that has it all laid out the way you do. You've got the toolbox, and you've got you know, the ebooks and all the information on the sites, and it's all stuff that people can go through step by step. And okay, you know, and any questions they have, they can look it up, and there's an answer. And the amount of time and energy you give to that, and on so many different platforms, it's tireless. And I've told you that before. I don't know how you do it, because you spend, you know, 12, 14, 16 hours a day doing it. You think about it when you're sleeping. You think about when you're having your coffee and putting your eyeliner on. You think about it when you're in the dojo. You and David talk about it. We talk about it. It's like it's your divine purpose. And had you not been through what you had been through, you would not be able to give that to others. And I think that that is a divine expression of God in you. You know, you're clearly a vessel, and so beautiful. I mean, you're really an earth angel, girl, and I just love you for it. And so thank you for blessing me in my life like you have.
It was acting like Clubhouse for a minute. It wouldn't let me unmute. I'm like, what's going on? Wow, that was beautiful, Amanda. Thanks. Thank you. That was beautiful. You said everything. Um, I love your language when you say like inner reflection. Um, that inner reflection will give us so much discernment in this healing journey. I've had people actually tell me, like, isn't it exhausting, like, to do that every day, like you said, all day, to just be, I mean, healing, even in the work that we do, all of us, even in the work when we are doing a post to a article to a class to a certification, and it is, but again, we're built for that. God is not going to give us more than we can handle. We can handle this work, and that's why I feel like we are light workers. We are healers. We are utilizing what we have, the God within, the advocate within us. That is, and I love the word creator, like our creator, because he left the creator within us. That's a creative that wants to create. So I just love the word in general. I need to get it tatted somewhere, but but I love it. I love it all. Um, with spirituality and spiritual abuse or spiritual hurt, I can't say there was a time that I can say like I hated or disliked God, because even in those the worst moments, like, I mean, there's times where my mom has kicked me out, or I've run away, and I have slept on in Denver the bus benches, because I was so exhausted from just walking around. I would just walk around, roam around till the sun came up and it was time for school, or I would ride the RTD. That's our train system in Denver. It's like you ride the trains. It's kind of like New York, but there's trains and buses. They have a great public transportation system. They do. So I would either like sleep on a bus, or in the bus would like go all the way to the mountains. Like, I remember being 13 and like traveling, getting off the bus routes and going to like the mountain areas and just finding a trail. And I am surprised that like a mountain lion hasn't gotten me, or because I would do like crazy things as a kid that you just like that really was unsafe, you know, to just go sit in a mountain that's like there's bears. I've never encountered that. I mean, I've encountered a wolf one time, but it didn't see me. So, but I'm digressing. But yeah, as for me, I've always heard that whisper of him. Like, even as a kid, I remember one time when I did try to commit suicide. I took a bunch of my stepfather's like pills, and I just remember it making me really sleepy, and I kept throwing up on my walk. was like night. I just didn't want to go home. And I remember sitting on the bench, the bus bench, and I was just sitting like this, threw it up, and I just heard like, it's that still small, like really whisper saying, you just have to go through it, and you're gonna go through it a little bit more, but it's okay. You have to go through. I kept hearing, you have to go through it in little different ways, like you have to go through it. And I've always accepted it. That small voice always told me, you have to, you just push through. Tomorrow is just good. It's gonna be a new day. It just like coached me through where I was dissociating everything, but I always heard that small voice, and I'm just like, okay. I kind of was just numb to it and just listened to it because it did feel like a father telling me that, and I never understood it, but I never understood that it was actually God. I thought it was just me trying to just get through it, But when I got older and got into this like healing journey, I always like that voice always. I always go back to that voice, that moment, the moments I've heard him, and I was like, that was God. That was God. I did have to go through these things. I didn't choose to go through them. I didn't ask for these things, but I do know that there was a purpose in that pain. And now today, finding communities like the ones that we're in, Norman and Abby's room, having that gratitude practice, and even things that just come up with like the certifications that like, oh, take this, oh, this, it'll your algorithm, like your phone, because I guess it's on, it's listening, I do believe. And it's not, that's not like a spirit, what is it, a theory. Like it really is, like when you sign up for Facebook, in the little fine print it does say, like, if you have the app open, it's taking data. It is taking data, and it's called data clouds. I learned it actually in the positive psychology course that I took. They take these data clouds, and the big clouds, they use the words that we say. There's like big there's a big cluster of words that are used often by billions of people, and they call them data clouds, and they use it for the positive psychology, and they split it between female and male. And for the male, most of it was like sports things, but the biggest ones were like curse words, like F bombs all over the place. And for the women, it was more like the big words were like family and love and heal. It was like all of this like mindfulness. So I'm digressing, but it showed that in the class, and I can't help but to like think that as women, when we get into our healing and notice the times that where God weren't there, not that we didn't see him in real time, when we were going through it, but after the fact, when we go back to it, it's like, oh, that was God in that situation. Oh, that's where, when we give him that kind of gratification, that kind of acknowledgement, like, oh, that's where you were. I feel like that in itself is a prayer, and that in itself is gratitude. And the more of the gratitude that we practice daily in our healing, I feel the more abundance, the more character, the more purpose we have. Because after all that and seeing him in that, then we can go out and tell people that experience. And that is a real discipleship. That is where I feel God is within. Because when we're not saying it's us doing this, we're like, yeah, no, God, really, my spirit showed me this. I really went through this. We went through this. And that's why in my practice, I say I'm biblical based. I don't really, I think I do have some church hurt. Not think, I do have church hurt. Just from like family members, and just their perspective. I think it's just kind of like a misguided belief that if you grow up in the church, you should fear certain things, or just them themselves that haven't experienced it. Like if I tell, like for meditation, there a lot of Christians are scared of meditations. They're scared of sound baths. They're scared of lighting a candle. I'm like, oh, light a candle, make it. It's for ambiance. And what people fail to realize is God has an aesthetic. He's always like, go in the temple. When you wear this temple, when you go in the temple, you have to wear this type of robe, or he loves gold, even the crystals, I don't believe that crystals bring like energy in itself, because that's making it a cult, an idol. But I do believe, if you read in Revelations, it's on the outside gates of heaven. Like God really like designed the outside gates of heaven with pearls and amethyst, and it's on the outside of, it's in Revelations in the Bible. So he's aesthetic. He loves aesthetic. He has a fashion about him, and I think that the weirder it gets, the more God is in that, you know. Like, so I never judge others. That's what I've learned from that church hurt. But the church hurt really just came from, I've always loved quiet sounds, meditation like sounds, and when I would try to present that within like family culture, it was just like kind of invalidated, and or, you know, just put down in weird ways, like me being the weird one, or the, you know, like that's not what we do here on Sunday. We don't play this type of music. And it's like there was so many rules. Hey Kay. There was so many rules surrounded church, and I think that's what gave me church hurt, is the lack of freedom to allow me liberation in my own healing. Allow freedom to say, even like with suicide, like certain things that happened within my family wouldn't be brought up because it was just uncomfortable, or whether it was a spouse cheating, or things like that. It was kind of that family dynamic where you just push things under the rug. And then I would see them go to church on Sunday, and I'm like, how is this God? You know, you would, as a kid with green eyes, you would look back like, why is ignoring it? And then, you know, you hear, just give it to God, and it's like, but what are we giving to God? Because back on Monday we're doing these things, you know. So it never made sense to me. But everybody has their own individual, and oh, you're fine. Okay, sorry, I'm saying you're fine because Kay texted me, but if she wants to, I think she's gonna come on, guys. Yay! I sent it. I'm not sure. Okay, but oh, there she is. There she go. Hey, Kay.
Hey,
Hi.
y'all. How y'all feeling?
Good, great, awesome. Now
Good.
that even better that you're here.
You too, buddy.
Oh, let me see if I'm still even recording. Girl, we were just talking about spiritual abuse, spiritual hurt, times we were mad at God. Yeah, I knew. That's why I was like, I knew you would like the subject. Yeah. Times we've been mad at God. But I'm just finishing up, girl. So I'm gonna hand the mic to you. I was just sharing my experience of where my church hurt, and not spiritual abuse, because my family has always encouraged, go to God if you don't know. But I think where I will take accountability is, I've always looked for guidance of how I should see God, how I should view God, what I should do, you know. And you do, just as a kid, you're looking up to your elders that are in the church. You're like, they're doing it this way, so this is how I should do it.
Yeah.
This is how I should do. When I left church, that's when I found my relationship with God, because we have to look at the pastor as he's a human. He's having these human experiences just as I. And it's not to go in blindly. I'm not saying people should just not go to church. I do love church. I just haven't found the one, you know, because when you join a church, that is another community that you're going to have to invest in. But for me, when I left it and I actually got a study Bible, that's another resource I tell people to get.
Yes, ma'am.
Kay and Janaé shared resources of Psych K, joining Facebook groups, getting, like, if you're going through something, like an accountability partner to go through that, kind of like a grief buddy. They had that. Just having a relationship with discernment. One resource I will share is a study Bible. I didn't even know there was actual study Bibles for adults.
Yes.
until like 3 years ago. So actually cross-referencing and getting, because I could read one thing, we all could read the same scripture, and still, because of our different perspective, it has a different meaning for us.
Absolutely.
So I just was sharing that, and with that, I'm gonna give you the mic, because I know you have some wisdom to pour into this conversation, girl.
Oh, my spiritual abuse. Whew, that's heavy. It really is, because you don't expect people to do that. You're thinking if you're seeking to get to know God in a closer, more intimate way, you're thinking you're going to encounter other people with that same agenda, that same thought process, and we're just going to go alongside each other, and we're going to learn and grow together, and we're just going to come into the knowledge of God together. That's what you come in expecting. But what do people tell you about expectations, baby? When you have expectations, you will become disappointed because people will fail you. That's just the nature of this human condition we have. Hello, somebody. We cannot help it. We have the best of intentions. And I do believe that's why my grandmother used to say to me all the time, well, you know, the road to hell is paved with the best of intentions. But I get it now. You know, little 7-year-old me ain't know what the heck she was talking about. But 49-year-old me understand exactly what she means, because people will always have the best of intentions, but the thing that we should do, we don't do. And the thing that we shouldn't do, we do. Huh? This is why he tells us in the word, when I would do good, constantly befalls me. We can't help it. It's this human issue that we have because we're born in sin and we're shapen in iniquity. God help us. He said, I did, girl. I sent my son to the cross for it. So I'm just saying, maybe when we get in touch with these people in these places, we have to understand that they are, just as you said, they're people. They're flawed. They're imperfect. My forever pastor used to put it like this. He said, the church is a hospital. And the hospital is full of sick people. Oh! That means we all broken. We all got some kind of issue, shortcoming, hang up, proclivity, something that we needed God to fix, because we went and we tried all the other routes. We thought we could find it in a lover. We thought we could find it in a friend. We thought we could find it in all the different things that we go to try to self-medicate. Okay, I'm just saying. We've tried everything else. So in a moment of desperation, we're like, well, I done tried everything else. Let me go try God. Huh? And then that's how we wind up at the church. A lot of us. I ain't going to say that's everybody's testimony, but a good vast majority of folks. So that's why people say, isn't that a great place to meet somebody? No. Don't go in there looking for no broken behind person, thinking that you're going to find the person God got for you. No, baby. Don't go in there with no place full of sick people talking about something. My soulmate is in there. Baby, you set yourself up for failure.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Right.
What I'm saying, and that's all I'm saying. Baby, I ain't going to church to look for nobody low ass, because what he going to be is some kind of ass, either a broke ass, a crazy ass, a sick ass. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry. Not sorry. I'm telling the truth. Because, see, that's why ain't nobody telling the truth to people. And then this is why we get in these situationships. And this is why we in these support groups. This is why we in these meetings, life after trauma. Because ain't nobody telling nobody the doggone truth. And if I'm wrong, y'all talk to me on the back end. Because I ain't above correction. You can say, well, Kay, you shouldn't have said that. I'll listen to you. Baby. I ain't too big for my britches, okay? I ain't in a position where can't nobody correct me. That's my mammy and her mammy. Okay, I'm sorry. But, baby, the hurt, we have to understand that when we go into these places, these people are flawed. We can't put them on pedestals. We can't say, oh, my pastor is perfect. My pastor. If you ain't sinned since 1987, then you ain't the pastor for me. You can't help me. Because I need somebody who's struggling daily. I need somebody who's going through this fight on a regular to tell me how they're making it through day by day, because that's the kind of life I'm living, where I'm fighting for my life every day. I need you to tell me how you making it through, brother pastor. And if you can't do that, then you ain't. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna keep pastoring, letting the Lord pastor me. He gonna be my pastor, okay? Because I'm sitting here bedside Baptist, but I ain't telling nobody not to go to church. It is very important. The Bible tells us not to forsake the fellowship of the saints. That's the word. That ain't the gospel according to Kayla. That is what the word of God says. He tells us that we are not to forsake fellowship. Now, what does fellowship look like? In the church structure, it is going into the house of prayer. And that house of prayer needs to be a good Bible-based church that is teaching sound doctrine. And the only way that you can know they're teaching you sound doctrine is that you crack that book yourself. You don't just let whoever gets behind the pulpit, behind that sacred desk, that holy lectern, and just tell you their understanding of it and what they got out of it and what they think it means, because that's when it becomes a very slippery slope. That's when it becomes problematic, because the word says you are to study it to show yourself approved, rightly dividing the word. So if you don't get in there to study it to understand what it says, how can you know if who's talking to you and telling you what it says is the truth or not? If it's just their interpretation or their misinterpretation or their misunderstanding of it, because that happens a lot where people are intending to tell you right, but they tell you wrong, because not in a manipulative way or a deceptive way, they just didn't understand it well enough themselves to be able to teach it to anybody. So you see, we have to be diligent in our own seek first. Once we accept and believe, we have to be diligent in our own seek to have our own action plan on how we are going to go about growing from a babe in Christ on milk to getting to the teeth and getting to meat and potatoes, how we're going to grow and mature and evolve. And because you don't want to stay the same. You don't want to sit and tell nobody, oh, I've been saved since I was 5 years old. And you still there in that same position, just like that. You ain't grew no kind of way. Baby, I wouldn't tell nobody that no more if I was you. You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, because, girl, you meet them all the time when they sit and telling you how long I've been walking with the Lord for 35 years, and you're still crazy as hell. You still ain't got good understanding. Your noodles still sliding off your plate. Your cornbread still ain't done in the middle. Fix it, Jesus. You see what I'm saying? You got to help the people, baby. It's just a sin and a shame. It's a sin and a shame. But, baby, I am here to help the people of God on today. I'm a hush.
The cornbread ain't done in the middle. No, she didn't. No, she. The cornbread still ain't done.
That
girl.
Cheese that slid off her cracker, her elevator don't go all the
Girl.
way.
She said the cornbread. If you get it, you get it. Oh my gosh. When did you experience church hurt for yourself? Like, what was that experience, that moment like?
Church hurt for me the first time was when I was in the church that I finally found that I wanted to be a part of in New Jersey, because I was always only connected to my church in Alabama, because I thought them people in New Jersey ain't know the Lord, child. I said, they just God-forsaken over here. It's just a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah. And these people don't know God. He gonna put this whole town on fire. So I didn't fool with churches in Jersey. I thought I didn't think they knew God. So I finally found a place that I got connected to. And I loved that pastor, but he was split in two places. He was split at his church in Maryland, and he inherited the church where his father had recently passed in New Jersey, where I was. And he couldn't be in the two places as much as he needed to be. How much can one person do trying to run two, head pastor of both, not even having an associate to back him up. He's literally trying to run two blitzes. It just spread the man so thin running between New Jersey and Maryland. So it got to a point where I wasn't being fed. And I would have an attitude sitting there. Honestly, I'm just going to tell the truth. I would have an attitude that I'd have sat my Sunday morning there and ain't got nothing out of the service. I ain't felt nothing. So now I got to figure out where I'm going. And a friend of mine, we had gone and went to a musical at some other place that was using a particular church. And I met the gentleman there that was the pastor, but I didn't know it because he was just outside walking past the building, and he saw my friend and he hugged her. And then he looked at me and he hugged me. And that man just held on to, you're in an embrace with somebody and he wouldn't let go. I was ready to let go, but he didn't let go. He held me tighter. And that man held me, and before I knew it, hurried up and I wiped the tears because I didn't want my friend to see, because she had been my friend for years and she didn't even know that I was battling the worst case of depression. Hadn't told her, and we were closer than close, hadn't told her a thing. But that man of God knew, and he held me until what was on me broke. Mm. And I said, you know him? She said, child, that ain't nobody but the pastor. So you better believe that next Sunday, that's where my little tail was. So when I left my other church, girl, they got so disgusted with me. How dare you leave us? Because I was their little praise and worship leader. I was their little holding down the alto section of the choir stand. I had this big old mouth that could do the whole choir by myself if ain't nobody show up over there in the alto. So you see, they had purpose for me. They had an agenda for me. And how dare I mess up their plans with me? You see, how dare I leave them? And baby, when I would see anybody from the church, they act like they ain't know me. But they had all this love for me. I mattered so much to them. I meant so much to them. But the moment that I was no longer in their building doing what they needed and wanted me to do, get rid of, gone, bye. We ain't fooling with you. No, we ain't got to talk to you. You ain't one of us. You ain't one of us. You ain't part of our crew no more. So, yeah, that was first church hurt. So, baby, that thing messed me up because they were such a close-knit family, and I really thought we were going to be family, whether I was fellowshipping with y'all consistently or not, and that devastated me.
Wow. That's what I've seen in church hurt, too. The audacity, like we can't choose where we can get fed. We can't choose what to eat. And that's what I even go into mindfulness practice. Like, I can't, that's the restriction certain churches give us. Like, I can't meditate. I can't do yoga because you're saying the poses are demonic. Like, how are you going to tell me what God has for me? Maybe God wants me to stretch this out. What is that? So
the controlling spirit.
Yeah.
The manipulative spirit. What is that?
Yeah.
What we in these support groups about? Narcissistic behavior. Yeah. You see? That's why the Christian narcissist, I told you, that is the worst damn devil of them all.
Yeah.
The worst.
Amanda, I kind of want to hear from you, because we were talking, we even had like a side conversation of how there's just different level, like different Christians or different, can we explain to the audience, or can you explain to the audience like what that looks like? Because a lot of Christians that I've known just give that judgment of like how a Christian should be, and when there's so many other, I think that they're so either one-sided thinking or just small-minded in that, and I think religion can really restrict our healing in a way, when it's like a catch-22, because like it's supposed to be about healing and then when you go to it, it's like, nope, but you can't do this, but you can't do that. Oh no, how dare you go over there looking for that, and it's just, so yeah, I would like to hear your perspective.
Absolutely. I was taking notes because you guys both said things that just really resonated, and I wanted to circle back to, and it's in line with this. And one thing that sticks out to me is that you'll have people in churches, and it's not just Christianity but other faiths as well. We just don't hear about it as much. Where people have come and told me and said, I get flack from my family if I light a candle, or I do yoga, or I got tattoos, or whatever, And I always laugh because I think, well, if I think about church or service, there's all kinds of traditions going on during a service. You're lighting candles, you're singing songs, you're praying, you're lighting incense. Maybe there's other stuff, and it's like, really? I mean, it's okay when I'm at church, but I can't do it at home and be doing the same thing. So I just discount all of that. It's so foolishness. It's just foolishness. But we are so quick to believe the word of others because we were raised to do that. And so whether it's a spiritual leader, a political leader, a doctor, teachers, our parents. We're all human, and none of us is going to get it right all the time. And so I learned actually through a medical situation with one of my parents that just because somebody thinks they know what something is doesn't mean they really do. And so you were talking earlier, Jasmine, about discernment. I think that's where discernment comes in mindfulness. And that's what's going to make the difference in my life between a successful spiritual journey that is feeding me and giving me what I need and not. When you keep those blinders on and say, oh, well, because this person who sits in a position of power told me it's this way, I can only reach God that way. And I just don't get with that. I haven't gotten with that for many years. One of the reasons that happened is because through my spiritual practice in a church that I was a member of some time ago, they did a presentation, and I learned that there are something like 23 or 26 different sects to Christianity. So they gave the graphic was of a tree, and it has all these branches, and it shows how Christianity started and what that looked like, and then through the ages, how that spread out into the different sub-religions that we know of now. So like maybe you're Baptist or you're Methodist or you're Episcopalian or you're Catholic or you're this. And everybody knows like the big ones, but then there's all these little ones. Like I attend Unity, and that's one little branch. And so yeah, there's some things that are all the same or kind of similar or based on the same principle, and it all centers down to Christ at some level. But there are also things that are very different. So like, for example, the church that I'm part of, all paths lead to Christ. So regardless of your religion, your creed, your background, you got money, you don't got money, your race, whatever it is, disability, gay, straight, doesn't matter. You're welcome, and that the divine is within us. We are an expression of our God, and how we walk in this life is how we are expressing God. And that, we're just here to elevate and grow. And, so that's what's comfortable for me. And so I'm able to take the stuff that I grew up with, some of which was very, very good, and some of it was not, because there were some, misinformed people. There was one person in a church I belonged to many, many years ago who decided that somebody was a witch because they wore black clothing all the time, and I just, how ignorant. So discernment is really what it's about, and not taking things so literally that people say. And that's hard, especially when we're children, because we're looking to our parents, we're looking to our spiritual leaders, we're looking to our teachers to tell us this is how you move through life. And we trust them because we look up to them. And, like I said, we're all human. Nobody gets it right all the time. So, yeah, that's what I was getting from it.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm a mute, and Janaé, I know you probably want to add to the conversation. She's I already know. Go ahead.
So many gems have been dropped. My goodness. I just stopped going to church, and meeting people who are firm believers they don't judge. My sister-in-law is such a great example of a true believer who loves with her heart. You know what I mean by that? Just, for me, it was meeting others who were believers that were not like my parents. That's where I weigh in on it. I remember my first EMDR appointment. I was nervous, anticipating what was going to happen. My sister-in-law DM'd me a song by Laurie Daigle. And even though, Laurie Daigle is modern Christian music, it didn't burn my eyes, because I knew that was something that came from my sister-in-law's heart. She's very deeply religious, a very firm believer in God, and enjoys worship. It came from the heart, not, oh, I'm going to push God on you now, sort of thing. And the true believers, those who do have the best intentions, is what life has taught me. Those who are very strong believers and have the best intentions are those who are also not going to judge you. They're going to hold space for your own path.
I love it. I love it. And I love how, so many gems of just having discernment when someone is just ignorant. And not to call them ignorant, but just when someone, Amanda said it best, when someone is just misinformed, when someone just lacks, like, they just grew up and just thinks it's one way, again, just inside the box thinking. And what I tell people is, have your individual relationship with God. It's going to look differently than mine. It's going to look differently than Janae's. It's going to look differently than Kay's. It's going to look differently than Amanda's. It's all going to look different. Stick to I statements. You should have your own individual with God. God isn't one way to everybody. He is all ways and everything to everybody. So I say to that, just I statements. Get your own spirituality before religion. Before you even go search for a religion of what's right and what's wrong, gain a spirituality, a relationship with self and with a higher power. I just split my higher power by saying my I statement of saying in Jesus' name, because I am biblical based. I do believe what's in the Bible. I believe that God put in them to write those journals for us to have wisdom today. But yeah, I love that, because what Amanda was saying, so many sub-religions out there. I was studying on COS-era Christianity and ecology, and ecology is just about like nature, and I was just whatever you're fascinated in and whatever your purpose is like calling you and pushing you. I love being outside. My husband, even he gets annoyed with the bugs, and I'm just like, what to do? I frolic a lot across my yard. I meditate. I find different trails where there's like water. I'll go and see, even if the water is like muggy, like my husband's like, you're wild, and I will go and sit in that water and just feel God's presence. Like, that is my relationship. And I've always, I feel like I dishonored God by not going towards that, by not seeking Him in the ways that He wanted me to seek Him. My ways of seeking, me going and sitting in water or praise dancing in water or praise dancing outside, may not be someone else's way of interacting with God. So find your own individual interaction with God. And I tell people all the time, just start with prayer. Just, if you have nothing to say, just hear my heart right now, God. And stay silent. And that's a meditation. That will get you in a meditative state to connect with self in the beginning. So that's what I got from all the gems you dropped. And discernment and mindfulness is probably going to be the title of the discernment and mindfulness, because what we were raised, I think people think before they start healing that our parents or whoever were our caregivers just have it figured out. They just know about life, when they're just learning, just like how we are. We are all in these different ages and different stages of life where we're like, I didn't know that. I thought they knew, so I follow, no, scratch everything, relearn everything you knew about religion. Even if you have to relearn it and it's still the same, just relearn it for yourself. And so, yeah, I love all of that. If anyone wants to add before we get out of here, I'll put myself on mute. And that was my last little bit.
But like, I love the fact that you said, start with your own individual path. Don't get caught up in anybody's religious perspective. Make it a relationship perspective. And that's when it's intimate, that's when it's personal, and that's when it's real. Because it's a relationship. You are getting to know, as the creation, you are getting to know the Creator in a very real and personal way. And it's just as simple as you saying exactly what you said, perfectly. come into my heart. I want to know you. I want you to show me me. Help me understand. When you go with the intentionality of seeking, there's no way. There's no way your request is denied. I promise you, if you take nothing else that I say seriously, if you believe nothing else that I offer, trust me when I tell you that. There's no way because that's the beauty of our God, the creator of these heavens and earth and the universe and all that we see. The beauty of that God is the mystery of that God. And the fact is that he has no respecter of persons. There's nothing that he will give to one that he won't give to another. He just won't deny you. He levels the playing field to make it equal. So no matter how people will try to rig a thing and how they'll try to botch a game and seem like they're at the advantage and you're at the disadvantage, God don't play them kind of games. He levels the playing field for all of us. It's equal. So there's no person that you need as a middleman, a mediator, a go-between. You have direct access to go straight to him. Straight to it. Listen, I don't know what the Catholics talking about with that booth, and I love my brothers and sisters over there. I love every last one of them. But baby, I ain't got to tell no flawed man that need to confess about his own stuff what I need to talk to my God about. That's between me and my God. That's our business. I ain't got to confess to you and tell you nothing. You need to be going and confessing your own stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm just saying, all you got to do is just seek him out yourself with your whole heart. Pure, genuine, authentic. And because he's such a gentleman, he will never force himself on you, but he wants to be extended the invitation. God, he wants to be extended the invitation. And if you invite him in, baby, you'll never regret it. You'll never, ever, ever regret it. I'm telling you, it's the most amazing ride.
Oh, I love that. Was so beautiful. So much came up for me with that because I realized too in gaining my individual relationship with God that I had to be honest with my desires too. My desires and why do I want a relationship with him? And I had to be honest because nothing was working. I'm like, help me with some answers here. No one is giving me the answers, but I know that you have them. I had to be completely honest with him. And people, always scared, like, I obviously wouldn't curse at God, but if your language is in a rage, if you're in a rage, I didn't want to, I've always been taught, oh, this is how you go and pray, don't try to, what am I trying to say? Don't try to manipulate your own words, because God's hearing your heart. He's hearing your rage. So if you're like, there's plenty of people in the Bible that had to groan and rage out loud in a conversation with God. It's not you like cursing God, but be honest even in your language with God. Be who you are because he knows you. So I felt that I was being dishonest by not really going in prayer with the language that I felt. I tried to manipulate my language to be respectful and be this, and also have discernment. I started to gain discernment when, I like usually go to, like, if someone's not married, don't take marriage advice, like things like that. So when I started to really view people like, okay, especially within the church, gossiping, that was my number one thing I had to heal within myself. Not that I gossiped, I just always somehow got in conversations where someone was gossiping. And I had to, especially in the work that I'm in, I had to go to God with that and he told me, like, I'm going to be, like, holding a lot of, like, secrets or generational things that have to come to me. So I can't just I'm so vulnerable. So he's correcting and positioning me to have discernment with that as well when it's gossip and when it's someone's just looking for a solution and resolution. Because there's a lot of Christians that came to me that just it was gossip, and I had to have discernment with that. It's like I've actually grew up with a little bit of church hurt from that, because it's like we go to church, but then families talking about family, and it's like, where's the love? Where's the love that we were just talking about? The honesty that we were just talking about. But so yeah, that's why people know, don't come to me. Don't come to me talking about this aunt or this cousin or that. No, I'm gonna go tell them, and we're gonna have a healing circle. And if you guys aren't emotionally mature enough to have a conversation to share how you feel, then that is God weeding each other out. Even if it's family, that is God saying, hey, this person needs to go here and this person needs to go here, and you guys need to work on yourselves. So also have discernment when like family is coming to you, when you start to become that generational like curse breaker, and finding your spirituality, because that kind of disrupted my relationship. Not my relationship, it disrupted my prayers. I felt like my prayers got angrier when that would happen, when I was trying to go for a resolution. They spewed some of their hurt onto me. And yeah, so I had to just having discernment, because spiritual things are real. People can really give that to you in just a conversation, and my discernment stops at gossip. And it was a real thing for me, because some people would come to me and I would view it as gossip, and then it wasn't, and God had to like correct that too. It's like, not everything is that. Some people are coming to you okay, like some people are coming to you with really what I'm trying to tell you, like the God within them is trying to warn me of things. I had to have discernment with that, and Kay actually helped me with that. So just people that come in your life, just pay attention differently. And with that, I'll go on mute if anyone wants to add into this.
When you mentioned about how they attacked you with the projection of your response to their gossip, that was a demonic attack, sister. Mm-hmm. You knew that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because how dare you?
At the time, I didn't. At the time, I didn't.
At the time you didn't. Yeah. Okay, so now hindsight, you were able to look back and see, absolutely. Yeah. Because it was, how dare you try to stop what they've always enjoyed, what they've been able to just
what other people enabled them to allow them to do, like because it's the person that was like the monarch of the family, and it's like, oh, well, I can do this. I can call on someone and talk about this person. It's always been okay. But no, you call on me and then you talk about this person, and that person finds out. That's what was meant to happen. You have to always have discernment when you're having conversations about other people, that they might hear this conversation.
Absolutely.
Whatever I say to this person, that person might hear. That's where I have my discernment. It's like, whatever I say here is going to be held against me in the court.
But that's just the fact.
Yeah.
Because you got to understand, if the gossiper is coming to talk to you about the person, you better know the gossiper going to talk to the person. What about you? Mm-hmm. Come on, Jesus.
And has.
That's the way it goes.
And has. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. That's how they keep the drama stirred up. That's how they keep the pot stirred.
And that's the main person that's been in the church the longest. And it's like, sometimes you have to disrupt things so that person can see themselves. And you have to allow God to let them see. They got to work through their own things. Amanda, were you gonna?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, to your point on discernment, I think that humans need to put things in boxes. They have to categorize things to understand them. They have to give them a certain meaning. Otherwise, it's uncomfortable, and nobody wants to be uncomfortable. And so we categorize something. So, for example, Christianity. Okay, when I was talking about there being like 23, 26 different branches and a core philosophy, but then there's all these other philosophies and they don't match everything. And so when people stereotype an entire religion based on an experience or not knowing other aspects of the religion, it's rampant, and it hurts everyone, because there's a lot of voices out there who don't share that belief and don't walk that way, and it's ugly, but if we could start by teaching discernment to children, and I think this is a good way to start by spreading the information to the public, like by doing podcasts like this. If we start when people are young and say, okay, we have to have leaders in this world in order for the world to run and for us to learn. But you have to really look at what you're hearing, because not everything you hear is going to be correct. You got to look within, look in your heart. Is that in line with your beliefs? And raise kids like that. I think we would be so much better served because, well, and for a lot of purposes, a lot of trauma would be avoided. Because if I'm a child and I know not to trust everybody, I'm not going to go play ball with this boy who's way too old to play ball with me. And because my mother's out of sight, he has ulterior motives where he's going to try to do something to me behind the school building, but he's acting like he's my friend and I don't know any better. So discernment is something that we need to really make sure children understand, and grown adults need to learn, because we're too trusting, and then we get ourselves in situations, and there's so many manipulators out there because they're counting on that. They're counting on that weakness that you're just going to blindly follow along. And, that's how people get hurt. So that's all I was going to say.
Hey, girl, that was so timely. Discernment being taught in our children. But you know what would do our children one even better? Psychology in the curriculum. Don't make them wait to get to some college and have to choose that as an elective. No, baby. Put that right, just like arithmetic, reading and writing, psychology. Because do you not need that in your day-to-day function out here in this world? Because if I had just a little bit of psychology, when I graduated high school, 3 of my immediate traumas would not have been. You see, because I would have had a better spirit of discerning, knowing how to read people, knowing how to understand the psyche and the characteristics and the mindset of a person. I would have listened.
Psychology in religion is a...
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And even if they don't want to be, they want to be so diplomatic that they don't want to put the religion back in the schools because of, people don't believe the same faith and all of that. Okay, so you ain't got to put the religion. But baby, that discernment will happen when you have the better knowledge of understanding. And because we were ignorant to the fact, the word tells us our people perish, what? By a lack of knowledge. So if we had the knowledge of psychology, if we had the basic fundamentals, just like that reading fundamental, just like that writing and arithmetic fundamental, just like that language arts fundamental, it would make the difference in the lives of our children, being better prepared, better equipped, going out here and facing their subscription to adulthood.
I think that said it all. That was the best. that was the best way to end this podcast because that was a gem right there. Dropped. Mic dropped. Hold on, let me drop my mic. No, I'm not gonna drop this expensive old mic, but thank you, Kay. Thank you, Janaé. Thank you, Amanda. I love you, ladies. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I hope this reaches who it needs to reach, and I hope they get what they need from it. Thank you. I'll talk with you ladies later. I'm gonna have a new episode next week. Love you guys. I'll talk with you guys later. Have a good day.